Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of A Handful of Hope. I am so happy and grateful to have Eleni with us here today, who has a passion as a motivational speaker. Her speaking career began as a health and wellness consultant for Rastelli Foods Group, traveling across the country to educate people on health, nutrition, and fitness. She is best known for using her skills as a certified life coach and thought process consultant to empower others. Utilizing her expertise in the field and the strength of her personal story, she creates a steady stream of programs to help people shatter limits and attract the lives they have always dreamed of. She shared her inspiring life story in the internationally best-selling book, Women Who Illuminate, and continues to share her message on stages all over the world. Having over 10 years' experience as a Reiki practitioner and crystal healer, she believes and teaches others the powers of natural solution. She is passionately committed to helping people learn the potential of their own healing capabilities. Her mission is to show people when you replace fear with faith, live by your defined vision and applied belief, you can literally wake your dreams. Oh, I love that. She resides in southern New Jersey and is blessed with a spectacular daughter, is dedicated volunteer to local women's and children's shelter where she responds to calls to counsel domestic violence assault victims. A well-known traveler in her area, Eleni has a true passion for fitness and enjoys utilizing the outdoors to help others feel healthy and inspired. Created by nature, she enjoys upcycling antiques, woodworking, and any artistic venture. Her favorite place to be is by any natural body of water or cuddled up with her daughter. Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jesse. This is an honor and I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. We've had such an incredible conversation off camera, and I also learned via messaging that you're a wrestling fan too, or at least you had the wrestling fan, so you already have a special place in my heart as a self-proclaimed wrestling fan myself. But we were talking, and I think this might be a really powerful place to start. We were talking off camera about what did you want to, is there any specific points you want to touch on and anything you wanted to bring? And you told me, and I think this is such important, you said you spent about 30 minutes beforehand praying about just, getting to a place where you trusted whatever you need to say would be exactly what someone needed to be hear. I was hoping maybe we could elaborate on that. Like how important is faith to you? And how important is that process of trusting in a power greater than yourself and how you live your life?
Well, for me, this is one of the subjects that I'm most passionate about. I live my life solely on that trust. For me, centering, getting quiet, and listening for the guidance is how I make every move. So I know that if I'm in alignment, if I'm in a faith center, that I'm going to receive the guidance I need. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And that I'm conveying the message. As long as I'm asking to do that, if I'm asking to be an uplifter, if I'm asking to shine light, I know the opportunities are going to present themselves. There's been times in my life where I was talking to you earlier about, I literally have quit jobs just because I'm happy. I'm a single mother and I literally quit my job because it just didn't feel right in my heart anymore. And I know that to create, to manifest, to really feel fulfilled, you have to appreciate and be happy in your here and now. You can make vision boards and think about how you'll be happy there, how you'll be happy then, how you'll be happy then, but you've got to align with that feeling first.
Yeah.
And you can't align if you're feeling unfulfilled. You can't align if you're not trusting the journey. So it literally took some redirection. And when I quit, things were not easy. Like there were some promises made. There were some opportunities that I thought were guaranteed. And guess what? Email after email, call after call, text after text. My heart sank a little more. And at that moment, this was recent, I hit my knees and I said, God, I know you haven't led me away from being able to provide for my daughter to go down a dark path. Show me. And little by little, I call them divine downloads. Download after download, I got blueprints. I got instructions. And then the next one would come. And my heart never felt so full in such a period of uncertainty. in a time where most or people would be freaked out, like, where's the money coming from? Magic money appeared. Magic money appeared. I was provided for. Things just worked out.
I got truth bumps when you said divine downloads, and the thought that came to my mind when you were saying that is, I've often observed people turning to God, religion, spirituality, higher power in times where they're afraid. And it's almost like they turn to be comforted, much the same as we might turn to another human being or, food or something like that. They turn because there's, and this isn't a fault at all. This is just my observation. They turn because they feel that there's an uncertainty of fear, and they're trying to find some place to turn for comfort to make them okay. And why I think I got the truth bumps there is in hearing you talk, is it sounded like what you were doing was you were turning not because of fear, but you were turning because of love. You were turning because you have this knowing of love and trust that's been cultivated over time. And I'm wondering, is that even true? And if it is, how have you developed that relationship, and how can somebody begin? Because is it something that you just were born that way, or is it something that you've learned to develop?
Well, I learned, I'm 15 years sober. I'm going to put that out there because it's a big part of the story. I learned that there was something greater than myself. And that was the only way that I was going to overcome the obstacles that I faced. There was the only way I was going to be able to beat addiction, to be able to beat alcoholism, was to surrender and to truly surrender. So I think that, and I did use a fellowship. I went through a fellowship with people much like myself with the same kinds of issues like myself. And that's where I found that. They taught me that. They taught me, I was always a spiritual kind of a girl, I was into angels and crystals and praying, but I still had an addiction that I tried and tried and tried to beat on my own. And I couldn't, and I found myself in some dark places, and the only place to turn was up.
When you turned up, because I imagine a lot of people right now feel like they're in a very dark place. And whether it's addiction, or whether it's just the uncertainty of the world, whether it's the uncertainty of the economy, the uncertainty of a family member's health or their own health, and they're probably desperately looking for the light right now, or at least just a shimmer of it. Was it when you turned and looked for that, did you see or experience light right away, or did you have to look really hard for it?
Well,
the process.
So for me, I ended I was in a marriage. I was 23 years old, and we were both addicted, and I knew I couldn't get sober staying there. And they left, and it was a volatile ending. I'll put it that way. It was very abusive. And I ended up living on the streets. And I decided at that moment that everything was going to change. I was living in my Jeep, and I had a notebook and Led Zeppelin 2 on cassette. And I listened to that cassette, and every day I just started to think of all the things I'd heard about gratitude journaling. And I mean, we're going back 15 years now. I'd heard about it. I'd heard a little bit about law of attraction and gratitude journaling. And I was like, I'm going to find things to be grateful for every day. So every day I started just writing down as many things as I could think of to be grateful for. And, I didn't have much. I was too ashamed to go home to my family. And I knew I needed to feel good. I knew fitness would make me feel good. Well, it doesn't cost anything to work out in the park. So I started working out in the park, and I started writing gratitude journals. And miraculously doors opened, connections were made. I was able to go to my family. I had the courage and strength. When I started to look at my blessings and see how lucky I was to be alive, that nothing horrific had happened to me, that I survived the ordeal that I survived with my ex-husband. And I just had a whole new outlook and a whole new perspective. Perspective is everything, right?
Yeah, it seems like so much of our dark exists because we're focusing on this illusion of lack.
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Well said.
illusion that I should have more, I should be more, I should be in a different place at a different time at this time in life, versus really stopping and taking inventory of the bounty of blessings that we all have, and that may not necessarily quantify materially, but geez, Maniz, you just start with, the fingers you have, the eyes you can see, the ears you can hear, right now we're talking about this coronavirus and attacking the lungs. Like if you're able to take a deep breath of air in right now and breathe, there's what I think the numbers are like 1.5 million people worldwide right now that we know of that are not able to do that. And those are just ones that have had this illness. Not even talking about other people have it. And it's something so profound that to look at your blessings as a way out of the dark. They're almost like the breadcrumbs, right? That lead you out.
Yeah, they are. Well,
What
yeah.
what was did you have like so I love that. And did you have a catalyst? Because I hear people sometimes think, well, when I feel so low, I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to take that first step. What was it about you? Was there something you focused on? Was there something you thought about that compelled you to say, to pick up the pen and start the gratitude journal, or to pick yourself up and say, you know what I can do? I can go and work out in that park and do something about right now.
I was familiar. I grew up in a family with alcoholism and addiction. So I was familiar with I'd studied a lot about it. So I knew the chemicals of the brain, and I knew I was, well-versed in fitness. I knew that would get my serotonin levels flowing again, and I would feel good. As far as the journaling, I had heard it before. And I just knew that I didn't have anything else to do. I was just so humbled, Jesse. I was just so humbled. There was nothing else other than that, other to do other than that. And there have been other times in my life where I've had to, I call that a leap of faith. I left an abusive situation. I was almost killed in the process. And I was like, I'm out of here. And I left. And my daughter, I'm a single mom. I left another situation that wasn't serving my highest good. Sometimes in life, you just have to trust that being happy and finding that joy, you have to do whatever it takes. That's your golden egg. Your happiness is your golden egg. And whatever you have to do to preserve it, to find it, you do that. And if you're in a dark place and you don't know where to start, ask for guidance. And I'm not here to try to dictate anyone's religious beliefs. You could be talking to the universe. You could be talking to Mother Earth, to nature, to something. Just, if you'd be amazed at what you can find out if you just ask, be still and listen. And just trust. Know like you know that the answer is going to come. You got to know like you know. It's the important part.
You mentioned earlier, and we were also talking about this earlier before we started filming, about sometimes in the dark, it's an opportunity to find a new perspective. Right? I wonder if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, so I'm going to put it to what people might be going, these times can feel scary, right? We're alone, we're isolated, we're uncertain. How long is this going to last? Will things ever be the same again? Will I lose a loved one? So there's fear of grief, there's fear of loss, there's fear of isolation, there's loneliness, there's, people might be battling addictions while going through all this stuff. But when in our lives, just think about this situation, when have we ever been given permission to just slow down? When have we ever been given the opportunity to just be? No needing to rush out of the house early in the morning to get the kids to school, and to just have an opportunity to enjoy the smaller pleasures. I don't have a lot of time to sit in the morning and meditate. Now, I don't have a lot of time to pray in the morning. Well, now you do.
Yeah.
You have a little bit of time. And it's something, for me, meditation is probably the most important part of my day. And I think for a lot of people, it can feel overwhelming. Like, I don't know how to calm my mind. The thoughts are coming in and out. And once I realized that it doesn't have to be an hour, I don't have to be in some zaza zen state. I can sit there quietly, right? You don't have to be sitting all perfectly. Like certain meditations do require that, depending on what. But for me, I have a pretty active mind. Just sitting for 15 minutes, soft music, and just listening and daydreaming. Well, what am I setting intentions? Setting intentions for the day. Setting intentions for the goals post Corona. Like where's my life going after this? And daydreaming it out.
Almost every single person I've interviewed over this series who's mentioned meditation, they say it's the most important part of their day. And I just want to highlight that for everybody listening, that if you haven't started trying it out yet, it might be the perfect time for you to. And honestly, full disclosure, one of my goals during this time has been to really develop a meditation practice, because I have been 100% guilty of saying I don't have time, my mind's too active, I can't sit still, all those types of things, the same blah, blah, blahs that most of us will use. And, setting the intention to slow down, it's been really interesting to observe myself. And by no means do I think that if I were to grade myself and my process of it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably up to about a 4 or 5, but it's a 4 or 5 from starting at a 1 or a 2. So it's a huge improvement, and I really do see the value in that now. And what you said too about slowing down, our culture has gotten to be such that in entrepreneurial space, right? You go on and you look at people in entrepreneurial, and everything's about the hustle, the side hustle, the push harder. It becomes almost this, to put it eloquently, a proverbial pissing match of who's working more hours and more days without days off or time off or anything like that. And it's interesting that we've learned to value these things to try to get to a place where if you looked at beyond that, you'll see probably what we really want at the end is to be able to pick up a lounge chair, go to the beach, hang out, and just listen to the ocean, or listen to go out in nature and be near a body of water. And it leads to the question, where have we gotten so disconnected from what we want that we're pursuing it backwards and trying to do all this stuff to get it when we could have it or experience it right now, right? How do we learn? I mean, how do we really learn to slow down? How do we begin that?
I think, we have gotten to where we are because of the importance that society's placed on things will make us happy. So we have to do a certain amount of things to make a certain amount of money to buy certain things. Well, personally, my goal is to still get the nice things, but not have to put myself through that kind of that grind and without balance. Balance is important, right? So the meditation and going into that space and slowing down, like I said, I'm like you. I kind of just recently started to get into meditation. I was ashamed to tell people that because I'm Eleni the light worker. I'm, Reiki practitioner. I work with crystals. What, Eleni? You haven't been meditating for years and years? No. When I quit that job and I told you I had to find my trust and I started getting my divine downloads, that's how quickly it happened for me. Once I realized, I tried for years and I just couldn't sit there and do, sit in the poses. When I realized that all I had to do, it's not as intimidating as some might think. So if you're out there, you're like, I don't know, just put on some soft music, close your eyes and dream. Just let that be your place of creation. What you're happy, like find your happy.
I love how you're expressing that right now, because it seems like the expression you have is it's this playful, almost pleasurable thing to do, right? And it's so counterintuitive to what we may perceive meditation or stillness as, right? Is it seems like the exact opposite. It seems like the thing that's taking us away from being playful. It's the thing that takes us away from pursuing things that are pleasurable, ascertaining material stuff. And I love that demonstration of it, because I found the process to be, once I get out of my own way with it and put like a higher value on some other task I have to get done over those moments for myself, it really is quite enjoyable just to experience yourself like that.
Mm-hmm.
just to experience yourself and to, I feel like it's a way, and I don't know if you've experienced this too, but it's almost like a way to get to know yourself deeper. It's kind of like it's kind of like a really get to know you date with yourself.
Right on.
Right?
Yeah. And for me, it's like, I kind of, at first, the first month, it was kind of, okay, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to meditate. And it was work. I had to actively sit down, set some music about, oh, letting get those thoughts out of your head. But now it's like, I get up, it's the first thing I do before I look at my phone, before I'm conditioned with fears or familiar emotions from everything else that's going on in the world right now, before I'm hit with any of that, before Facebook, Instagram, all that, I sit there and I just wonder, like, where am I going to go today? Where's my mind going to take me? I like to think about trips I'd like to take in the future. I'll think about, things that I'd love to do with my daughter, or places my career is going to go. Everything starts at the level of thought, and meditation is your canvas to create it. And you can follow that up with your vision boards. You can follow that up with writing. You can follow that up with all the different things that you learn in the LOA world, for anybody who's out there wondering how to create their own reality. That's where you begin.
I love that. I know a lot of your work now is centered around helping people shatter limits, and I'm obviously a big fan of those kinds of things. and, but in my curiosity, because I've had a lot of conversations with folks these last couple months, and my observation has been is that you see with some people limits that people who operate under the belief system of limitations, those are almost getting cemented in some instances, and others are having limits come up that they didn't realize they had. Now you have the other extreme where people who are kind of in that, F it, like I'm going to go all in on myself here because what else am I going to do? I'm wondering for people who are having those places where they feel like their limitations are up, because we all, you and I know that on the other side of limitations that's where your promised land is. That's where your magic happens, right? So people who have limitations coming up right now, or they are confronting them big time because of the fear, because of the uncertainty, and because of all those things happening right now, they might feel even more limited before. How can they begin, or what is something they could do to start breaking those limits down for themselves?
I think that the most important thing to do is just to become aware of your thoughts,
Hmm.
to really try to be mindful. How are you speaking about yourself? How are you referring to yourself? How are you speaking about others? I think, gossip is probably, once you become mindful of what's coming out of your mouth and the thoughts you're thinking about yourself, you start to realize that some of those limits and labels are things that you're giving power to. They're fears that you're giving power to. So what are you going to feed? What are you going to feed? Are you going to feed those conditioned beliefs or those things that people have said about you all your life? You don't have to wear that. You don't have to wear that jacket. You can take that jacket off. You have the choice in that matter. So realizing that you choose your thoughts and empowering yourself that, I'm going to actively work on the way I think about myself. The way, it can be as simple as when someone tells you look great. Oh, wow, you look great. Oh, no, I don't.
Hmm.
What? How about thank you? Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Hmm.
It's the little things. Well, have you listened? Now I'm gaining weight. It's the little subtle things that if you start to realize how you're looking at yourself, like flip it around a little to be a little kinder to your spirit, to your human suit, and it kind of transpires in how you're treating others.
The person who pushes back on that and says, yeah, that sounds all well and good, but I can't control my thoughts. I'm thinking them, and before I realize it, they're 2 miles ahead of me in the race. What guidance can you give them?
Sit down in the morning and write.
Yeah.
Start getting into a good journaling process. There are good qualities about you, and if you sit down and you think about all the things that you love about yourself, if you want other people to love you and like you, You better start to own the things that you love and like about yourself. Forget all those other things. Don't give them any power. Give the things that you do love and like about yourself. Are you an artist? Are you great at music? Are you resourceful? Are you great at math? What are your skills that you know that you have? Feed those good things that make you feel great. If you struggle with that type of journaling or writing, I highly recommend the magic. It goes along with the secret. It changed my life. I've done it time and time over again. It helped me to look at things, change my perception a little bit of how I looked at myself, how I looked at my health, how I looked at people that harmed me along the way. Those shackles I've been dragging around for shackles of resentment that I've been dragging around, and that entitlement that came along with it, they were getting heavy. It was hard to fly with those babies on my ankles,
For sure. What is something that, this is kind of off topic, but maybe it's not. What is something you've learned about yourself during this time that you were surprised you learned about yourself?
During this time with the coronavirus? I've always been one to say that time is the one thing we always wish we had more of when it's all said and done. And I'm finding the bonding with my daughter, and just that I can slow down and appreciate motherhood in a different sense, rather than just the obligations that it comes along with. Just because we don't have anywhere to be, we can just go outside and really look at a pine cone, not just the mom, look at this pine cone, oh cool. We can really look at it, We have all the time in the world to appreciate things with fresh eyes.
Love that. 3 rapid fire questions to close us up here.
Okay.
People are at home, sheltering in place, lockdown, quarantine. There's so many terms, I don't know which one they are now, but if you could recommend people to listen to one podcast during this time, what podcast would you recommend people listen to?
I listen to Blair Hayes.
Okay.
She empowers me.
And if you could recommend one book for people to read, what would you recommend?
Let's see, Power Life Script, because it's something fun to do while you have all this time to create the life of your dreams.
Cool. And one movie or documentary you'd recommend people watch?
Heal on Netflix.
Everyone, this was absolutely incredible, and I really encourage you to rewatch this multiple times, because there's so much little pearls of wisdom in here. And whether you have a religious, a spiritual background, or you're just tiptoeing into it, now during the time of uncertainty, it might be a wonderful opportunity for you to start to explore and develop that part of yourself. And I love the pieces of it too, about really, the stillness and just the simplicity of the pine cone. What a beautiful metaphor to take away from this, right? Is to look at and say, how many moments in our lives have we been hurrying up to get beyond because we think that we have stuff we have to run to, appointments we have to keep, times we have to go to, jobs we have to, responsibilities, all those types of things, only to wish that we had the time to slow down and really appreciate those simple little moments with the people we love and care about the most. And really learning to embrace that time to slow down and to look for to find the light in the dark, and to count your blessings, to really start to take inventory of your blessings, because they are the almost the foundation that you can build the next chapter of your life on. So whether you find yourself in the dark right now or already emerging into the light, whether you find yourself beyond your limitations or you're finding yourself faced with them, start with that conversation you have with yourself. Pick up the journal in the morning and write. And just be still and check in with yourself and spend time. And if you rewatch this a couple times, I think you'll find what was shared here will sink in over and over again. And it'll start to, I love those divine downloads. And perhaps you too will be open to having your own divine download and looking at how you can integrate what we shared into life going forward. So, Eleni, this has been absolutely, absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
This has been amazing.
Great experience. Thank you so much, everybody.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.